celebration of Methodist Men's Fellowship at KNUST, Napo stressed that the fight against galamsey should be driven by national consensus. He called on the NDC to clearly outline their strategy and join the NPP in prioritizing the environment over political gain, reaffirming that the NPP's 2024 manifesto outlines specific measures to protect the country's water bodies and promote responsible mining.
4 years ago, the whole countryside were told that MPP for say MPP for say ourselves, forgetting that there's a difference between small-scale mining and destruction of water bodies and forests. So the church must speak. And the church must speak and be responsible in bringing all presidential candidates to a round table and saying, all commit and go outside and preach, or else we will never vote for you. It cannot be a one-sided affair. It cannot be one becoming responsible and losing an election and one becoming irresponsible. Because the person who is irresponsible in illegal mining will become irresponsible in managing the monies and the future of this country.
Member of Parliament for Tamale South, Haruna Idrisu, has refuted claims that some individuals are attempting to hold former President John Mahama responsible for the country's illegal mining crisis. According to the former minority leader in Parliament, all mineral resources in Ghana are vested constitutionally in the sitting president, making it surprising that some would try to shift the blame to a past president who is no longer in office. He said that at the National Democratic Congress's campaign launch in Hamile Lambusi constituency.
Speaking about galamsey, they forget one important thing. They should read Article 268 of the Constitution well. All mineral resources in Ghana are vested in the president. That president is Nana Akufo-Addo, not John Mahama. If it is not being managed well, if it is managed in a manner which is destructive of our livelihood, we will hold Nana Addo solely responsible to it. So they should stop shifting the goalposts, calling John Mahama names. We didn't give John Mahama the power today, the authority and mandate today, to preside over the judicious and optimal utilization of our mineral resources. We gave that power to...
Still on galamsey, Executive Director of the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana, Bismarck Owusu-Norte, has sounded a warning that the country could face a reduction in the quality of food should the galamsey menace persist. Speaking on ABC News in the morning, Bismarck bemoaned that the current galamsey crisis could compromise the quality of food produced in the country, as some farmers rely on the polluted water to irrigate their farms.
And not only the supply of food, but also the quality of food. Those are the two critical things that we are risking due to the current menace going on. When it comes to the supply of food, the issues about the farmlands being gone, because a lot of work being done indicates that several farmlands have been lost. These are farmlands that are used to cultivate several types of crops, ranging from cash crops to food crops. We are.
Meanwhile, Mr. Bismarck Norte added that the loss of youth to galamsey instead of agriculture, according to him, the next generation of Ghanaian youth may become galamseyers.
We are also losing our population to galamsey. So ideally, you would want to have your youth go into agric. But now if you go to a lot of these mining communities, hardly will you find any youth interested in agriculture. Most of them have moved to the galamsey site. So when it comes to the supply of food, we see the dimensions of it. Then when it comes to the quality of food, we spoke about how soils have been contaminated, how the waters are contaminated, that once those waters are used to produce food, they can't vouch for the quality of the food. So we are actually on a time bomb regarding how much we can produce as a country because of galamsey. And then on the flip side is that the quality of food we are producing and how, if we are not careful, we are going to compromise the health of the population because of the quality of food we are producing.
Still on illegal mining activities, the president of the Catholic Bishops' Conference, Most Reverend Matthew Kwesi Gyamfi, has expressed his support for the bold step His Excellency the President has taken in solving this crisis. He mentioned that the president is listening to the people of Ghana and their concerns. Reverend Kwesi Gyamfi urged all Ghanaians to rally their support fully behind the 5-member committee headed by the National Security Minister Kandapa that has been set up, adding that it is necessary that things are put in place.
A very good move, and it shows that the president of our country is really listening to the people and our concerns. Sometimes you have to remind them to take steps for us. So we are very, very impressed, and we are very, very happy with the bold step that he has taken. Yeah, our expectation, first of all, let us make it clear. We know that the president of Ghana, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has taken very, very bold steps. At first, even he said he's putting his presidency on the line. And he did that. It's a very good move, and it shows that the president of our country is really listening to the people and our concerns. Sometimes you have to remind them to take steps for us. So we are very, very impressed, and we are very, very happy with the bold step that he has taken. Yeah, our expectation, first of all, let us make it clear. We know that the president of Ghana, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has taken very, very bold steps. At first, even he said he's putting his presidency on the line. And he...
Away from Galamsey. We will be right back still. Thank you for staying with us. Still on Galamsey, an advocacy group called Settle Ghana has slammed the government for failing to treat the fight against illegal mining, otherwise known as Galamsey, with urgency. The group, led by Mr. Isifu Seidu Kudus, who spoke on ABC in the morning, questioned why the government has all the security apparatus at its disposal yet failed to manage the situation. He again stated that the president lacks the political will and cannot fight the menace.
So I don't understand why the president finds this very difficult, even though they themselves have blinded themselves to not seeing the things that are happening. They themselves have closed their ears to not hear the things that we are crying about. They themselves have become oblivious of the facts that are before them. In any case, these issues that are happening, they are not new. Because I can remember that Haji Ali Mamama, who was Minister for Local Government, at a point, at the instance of the President and most of the cabinet ministers who are today being part of this committee, at their instance, she did indicate that she has a report in which most of the appointees, especially the MMD, DCEs, and some of the regional ministers, he has a report of them engaging in galamsey. At the instance of the president, up to now, we have not heard anything about it. That aside, the president as head of national security, the president as commander-in-chief of the Ghana Armed Forces, the president has all the security architecture under him. And as per a convention, and as we know in democracies, a president would have briefings on daily basis, will have briefings on weekly basis, we have briefings on monthly basis, on quarterly basis, and on yearly basis. So it's our president and our government saying that today they have not had briefings from these places as to what is going on and the threats that imposed on us as a people. Is that what the president is telling us? But this is a president who takes every criticism very serious. Small criticism against him, he will respond to it. This is that president who hears those small things, but his ears are blocked, the government ears are blocked to bigger things that threaten the lives of the people of this country. The responsibility of every government, the first responsibility of every government is to provide security in various.
Mr. Isifu Seidu alleged that President Nana Akufo-Addo knows the culprits in his government behind the menace, yet is adopting a knee-jerk approach by appointing the 5-member committee.
Minister for National Security has been part of this government since 2017. When they put up the committee and they put up the security architecture, call it Galamstop, Vanguard, Alt, and what have you, his outfit is part and parcel, integral. In fact, it's integral with this, and he's been supervising all of these. The Minister for Defense has been integral. The new Lance Minister, Abu Jinapo, you know, just like my brother said, they said that he was brought in to fight galamsey. And if he has been brought in and the water bodies as of 2017 as compared to today is worse, that means he has failed. In any jurisdiction, these ministers would have been resigning by now, not to be put up again to go and sit on a round table and say what? There's nothing the government and the president don't know about this galamsey. And let me say this, what we lack as a people and what they lack as a government is the political will to fight, because you and I know that reports have come out that members of this government and members of the party in government are engaged in galamsey. Several reports have come out. In fact, Fourth Estate did its report about 2 weeks ago and named some government officials who have secured mining licenses from the same Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. About 10 companies belonging to appointees of this government, including the KMA boss, Sampine. They have been given licenses to mine in forest reserves and to pollute our waters and to destroy our forest reserves. Is the president saying that all of these have not come to his notice? And what I'm saying is that they lack the political will. Lacking the political will is in this case because the same people are engaging.
Away from galamsey, the flag bearer of the National Democratic Congress, NDC, John Mahama, has defended the party's decision to protest against the Electoral Commission. The protest is in response to concerns raised by the NDC about the accuracy of the voters' register, which they believe could impact the fairness of the upcoming December 7 elections. Mr. Mahama, during a community engagement as part of a second phase of the Greater Accra Regional Tour, emphasized that the NDC's actions are aimed at safeguarding the integrity of the electoral process.
When we raise issues about the electoral process, it's because we want the EC to sit up and do its job so that all of us can have confidence in the electoral process. And the only way we can get the EC to do its job is to put pressure on the EC to do it. And that is why on the 17th of this month, that is next Tuesday, we're doing a demonstration to the EC office. And that demonstration is not only NDC, it is all Ghanaians who are willing to join the demonstration so that we go and tell EC to sit up and do its work properly so that we have a peaceful election. That's the purpose of that demonstration. So this is not like something new. People are behaving as if NDC is being troublesome by calling for an audit. It won't take more than 2 weeks to finish a proper audit of the register. And that's why we're saying the EC should accept, form an independent committee, let it go into the register, accept all our complaints, clean up the register, let us all be satisfied, and then we move.
Mustafa Gbande, Deputy General Secretary of the NDC, has warned that any attempt to rig the December elections will be unsuccessful, as the only legitimate path to the presidency is through a free and fair electoral process. He cautions that any deviation from this will lead to heightened security tensions. Viewers, we apologize for the issue with our sound. Away from the NDC and to the NPP, government spokesperson on security and governance, Dr. Palgrave Boache-Dankwa, has clarified the seeming silence of the NPP on concerns of the voter register irregularities expressed by some political parties. According to him, the NPP is not silent but has equally tabled its concerns to the EC. Speaking in an interview on ABC in the morning, he stated that the NPP is focused on its campaign to win the mandate of the Ghanaian people in the upcoming 2024 elections.
Parties and not dealing with governments, and I'm very certain is that with the political party, which is the New Patriotic Party, which I belong to, we are not silent about these issues at all. We have made our concerns very clear to the Electoral Commission, and the Electoral Commission has sought to address it. I've always stated that the NDC hasn't got any policy, they haven't got any manifesto, they haven't gotten any alternative desire to be able to lead this country. And so one of their ultimate goals is to cause chaos and mayhem when we are in a very serious political dispensation, when people are campaigning. Our flag bearer, Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, is campaigning.
Chairperson of the National Commission on Civic Education, NCCE, Kathleen Addy, believes that Ghana can conduct violence-free elections this year. She says that attention should rather be focused on the possible activities of extremists. We are looking forward to a successful election. We are looking forward to an election without bloodshed, Madam Addy said. We are looking forward to an election where no one has to die for someone to come to power, she added. Ghana has such great mechanisms to ensure we have a peaceful election. This year, our worry should rather be on external threats to our democracy due to activities of violent extremists. Deputy General Secretary of the NDC, Mustapha Gbandi, has warned that any attempt to rig the December elections will be unsuccessful, as the only legitimate path to the presidency is through a free and fair electoral process. He cautions that any deviation from this will lead to heightened security tensions in the country.
No person will emerge as a leader or as a president of this country out of a rigged election. At worst, they will have MPP members ruling some part of the country and NDC members ruling another part of the country. The only way to have a legitimate president of Ghana is a product of a free and fair, transparent electioneering process. Anything short of that will only lead to a potential escalated security situation.
The Vice President and Presidential Candidate of the ruling New Patriotic Party, Dr. Mamadou Bawumia, was the guest of honor at the 2024 Kundum Festival celebrated by the chiefs and people of Axim. The festival, which took place under the leadership of the Paramount Chief of Lower Axim, Awulai Atibukusu III, was a showcase of the rich culture of the people of Axim. Dr. Bawumia, who had previously joined the chiefs and people of Insane to celebrate the same festival in 2018, expressed his delight at being part of this year's celebration. Dr. Bawumia's presence at the festival was seen as a testament to his commitment to promoting the cultural heritage of the people of Ghana. In his address to the gathering, Dr. Bawumia said he would make sure they work in collaboration with the CEO of Ghana Gas, Dr. Ben Asante, to expedite the request of a VVIP ward, which was appealed by the chiefs of Axim for the people of Insane to elevate the quality of healthcare at the Insane Government Hospital. He also assured the people that the Axim Youth Resource Center, popularly called Axim Sports Stadium, will be commissioned soon in order to bring sports enthusiasts and businesses to the town. According to governance expert Frederick Oduro, election years offer the most opportune time for labor unions to negotiate better working conditions. Speaking on ABC in the morning, he added that the government is more susceptible to union demands during this period as they seek re-election and aim to maintain a positive public image. This, he says, presents a strategic moment for labor unions to push for their interests, as governments are more likely to concede to their demands in order to appear favorable to voters.
10-year presents the best possible time for unions to agitate for want of better word, better conditions of service, as they would want to put it. Because in an election year, the government in power is always vulnerable. They want to look good. And labor agitation can never be deemed as as good for any government in power. So government tends to be vulnerable in an election year. So when labor unions want anything, they are a lot more pushy in an election year than, say, immediately after election. I mean, immediately after election, every government is beginning deemed to be on some form of honeymoon or the other, and you don't get to see people making demands. Sometimes even people would say, "Oh, you have just come, so we are prepared to allow you to settle before we begin to ask for certain things." But in an election year, the government in power is almost definitely seeking to come back to power, and they won't.
Still on labor, governance expert Frederick Oduro has stated that it's time to re-examine the concept of productivity in the public sector. Frederick Oduro's comments highlight concerns over inefficiency and lack of accountability. Speaking to ABC News, he addressed the pervasive issue of corruption within the public service, stressing the urgent need for reform.
We need to begin to question the essence of productivity. We are paying people, but for what kind of work are they supposed to be doing? So if somebody is a lecturer, if somebody is a doctor, if somebody is a nurse, if somebody is a teacher, what should be their work output?
Okay.
How do we measure it?
So
how many hours should they be spending on their work? Or all that we need to do is that I've secured employment within the public sector. I think we need a bigger discussion about some of these things, because sometimes you sit back and...
The Senior Staff Association of Universities of Ghana has announced the total nationwide strike commencing today, Monday, September 16, 2024, over the government's failure to address their demands for improved working conditions, despite numerous protests and negotiations. In a statement signed by National Chairman George Ansong, on September 13, the association expressed frustration over the government's inability to fulfill previous agreements, highlighting several reasons. According to them, the government has failed to implement new rates for vehicle maintenance and related allowances, despite a prior arrangement. The statement also noted that the government has not released Tier 2 deductions to fund managers since January 2024 and has neglected to recalculate interest on Tier 2 pension funds from 2010 to 2016. Joining us on phone is the former national chairman of the Senior Staff Association, Isaac Donko, to have a conversation on this. Good afternoon, Mr. Donko.
To my sister.
Thank you for joining us on ABC News GH.
The pleasure is mine.
You have commenced your strike today. What are the demands this time around?
You just read our demands, and our demands are very simple. And for the past year or two, this has been our demands, always embarking on the strike. You recall that last year or early this year, we embarked on similar strike with similar reasons. The Tier 2 was paid from March to December 2023. Now, after payment, because nobody is questioning them, they decided not to pay again till date. So from January 2024 till date, they are yet to effect one payment. We asked them that the one that they did the same thing to it from 2010 to 2016, of which it accrued so much interest, and when they were paying, they only paid a simple interest. And he said, no, that is not the position of the law. So they should use what the Pension Act is saying with a 3% penalty. So they should do the recalculation and pay it. They are here to respect the position of the law. Then our car maintenance allowance, which the two parties, by two parties, I'm making reference to Labour and government, we just sat down to agree that these allowances should be reviewed twice in a year. It has been done, but they are yet to effect payment. So we don't know what to do again than to draw our services. So that has brought us here today.
Initial conversation with them, have you gone back to the table to find out why these are delaying?
We've made personal calls, text messages have been exchanged, official letters have been written, but no acknowledgement, nothing whatsoever is coming from government. So we are frustrated as a union, and we think the only language government can understand is withdrawal of service. That is why today we've asked our members, nobody should go to work until we tell them to do so. Nobody, not even a single soul, should go back to work.
Some have said that because it is an election year, you are holding the government to ransom because you know that government needs votes in the year. So when you go on strike, they will listen to you, and because of that, you are holding them to ransom. Is that the case?
That's an unfortunate observation or statement anybody can make in Ghana. It's very unfortunate. Very, very unfortunate. In fact, elsewhere, if you're a pensioner, you enjoy life. But in Ghana, if you're a pensioner, you are close to, excuse my language, close to be a prisoner. Why? Because we don't pay attention to our pension funds. And for us as senior staff, we are not going to allow any political party to play with our pension funds. Nobody. Whether you are MPP, you are NDC, you are CPP, you are any other political party, we are not going to kowtow to any political way that our pension will be there with. No, nobody. Senior Staff Association of Public Universities in Ghana, we care for our pensions, and nobody should read meanings to what is going on. Because I can't pay my pension dues to you, the government who employed me. You did the deduction on my behalf, and the law says that after the deduction, just remit the money to my fund administrator or my fund manager for the money to be reinvested. You keep the money for how many months now? From January to date, 9 good months. Are you the fund manager? You are not. Have you done the deduction? Yes. So why are you keeping the money? What is the reason? That one too, you should also read political meaning to that. So nobody, we are begging the whole of Ghana that nobody should read political meaning to what is going on. You should rather the government
Mr. Donko, we seem to be losing you. Can you please position yourself so that we can hear you properly, sir? Hello, Mr. Donko.
Yes.
Okay, we can hear you better now. Initially, it was a challenge hearing you.
Yes. So I said it will be very unfortunate for people to read political meanings to what is going on, because we are labor unions and we are not interested in political parties. In fact, our union even found on a labor union leader being a political activist. So we are not doing politics. So what you are doing, if NDC is in power today and they are defaulting, you do the same thing. If CPP is on power today and they are doing this, we do the same thing. Any other political party who comes to office and decides to joke with our pensions, you will never forgive that political party. Because if government does not care about our pension, we care. So nobody should try to interpret our strike action in a political direction. Because the law is straightforward. The law mandates the state or our employer to deduct our pensions. That one, the state or the government is very happy. They will do the deduction. The same law also says that when you deduct, give the money to the fund managers. This one, you can't do it. Are you a fund manager? You are not. So what are you keeping the money for? Are you doing private business with the money? If you are not doing it, release the money so that our fund managers can invest the money. So that when I'm going for pension, I can get something reasonable for myself and my family. So our pensions, no government should try joking with our pension. Nobody. And you will never allow any state organization to joke with our pension.
Okay. Mr. Donko, before you go, what are the avenues you will seek beyond the strike action?
Oh, well, we are taking it step by step. Now we just started. We hope that government will invite us to the table for us to find solutions to what is going on. We know that owing for 9 months, government can pay. They can pay. So they should do well and pay. Beyond that, we don't know what to do again. Okay. And when you get there, we'll find a solution to that one.
Grateful for your time this afternoon, Mr. Donko.
I'm also grateful.
Isaac Donko is the former chairman of the Senior Staff Association of the Universities of Ghana. Still on labor experts Austin Gami suggests that to prevent future labor unrest, the government must prioritize re-inclusion in the public sector.
It's about inclusion. It's about inclusivity. You know, any employer, both private and public, in the absence of inclusion, people will find themselves to be relevant. You know, Ghana is one of the places where inclusivity is completely absent. We are as if we let leaders to lord it over us. Leaders are supposed to provide credible services as outlined in the 1992 Constitution, Article 36, the Directive Principles of State Policy. Unfortunately, our governments and presently, we've not been able to provide that kind of inclusive, with an impeccable integrity of leadership, of providing policies and strategies that are workable and doable, and ensuring that the people are seen as an integral part of the governance architecture of the country. And once you don't do it that way, they will find a way of making themselves relevant. It's about inclusion. It's about inclusivity. You know, any employer, both private and public, in the absence of inclusion, people will find themselves to be relevant. You know, Ghana is one of the places where inclusivity is completely absent. We are as if we let leaders to lord it over us. Leaders are supposed to provide credible services as outlined in the 1992 Constitution, Article 36, the Directive Principles of State Policy. Unfortunately, our governments and presently, we've not been able to provide that kind of inclusive, with an impeccable integrity of leadership, of providing policies and strategies that are workable and doable,
Concerned citizens of the Komenda traditional area have informed the Ghana Police Service of their intention to hold a protest against the lease of the Komenda Sugar Factory to an Indian firm. Originally scheduled for August 13 in Komenda, the demonstration will now take place in Accra on September 17. The protesters are demanding the reversal of the lease agreements, calling for the factory to be restored to its original purpose of processing locally grown sugarcane rather than importing raw sugar. They argue that the lease was granted without proper procedural adherence and stakeholder consultation. Joining us on the line for a conversation is the convener for the concerned citizens of the Komenda traditional area, Samuel Awuja. Good afternoon, Samuel. Thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Good afternoon, my sister.
Samuel, what specific procedural issues or lack of stakeholder consultation are you concerned about with the lease agreement?
Thank you, and a very good afternoon to your cherished listeners and viewers. You see, Komenda Sugar Factory, Ghana, we are fortunate that we have a sugar factory, and as citizens of Komenda, we are even very much fortunate because it is situated in Komenda. You see, the factory is not built, or it wasn't built in the air, it was built in the land. And before the factory was even built in 2016, there was a lot of engagement. The chiefs had to release lands. There were a series of engagement with the local sugarcane outgrower farmers and a lot of stakeholder consultation. So we believe that the farmers especially play a major role in the sugar production here at the Komenda Sugar Factory. So if the government were to take any major decision, we think we should have been consulted. The chiefs, the outgrower farmers, and the citizens of Komenda should have at least been consulted before engaging in this lease agreement. Because looking at it, my sister, you see, the land doesn't belong to the government. The land belongs to the people of Komenda. So the government cannot lease it without engaging the custodians of the land. It is not possible. The most painful aspect was the minister, when he even made the announcement to the whole world that the government was going to lease the factory to whoever was coming to take it. The minister even said it whilst he was in Komenda. But to tell you this, the minister even didn't bother to pay a courtesy call on the chiefs to at least pre-inform him before announcing it. So if he really wanted to engage the people of Komenda whilst in Komenda, he would have done so. But the minister drove from Accra all the way to Komenda, went to the sugar factory, held a press conference there, and told the whole world that they were leasing the factory to an Indian farmer, which we think is not in the best interest. You see, my sister, even that aside, let's assume, without admitting that whoever is coming to take over the factory, at least is going to create jobs. And it is good. So if the government doesn't have the money, doesn't have the resources to operationalize the factory, whoever is coming to take over will at least let the factory work and then employ a lot of the youth. But the minister should have done the needful, should have consulted that in so many ways. And more so, we think that the timing is wrong because we've been advocating for the operationalization of the factory for the past 8 years, since 2016. So why now? I quite remember in 2021, the last time that we wanted to embark on a demonstration, the government came out that they were going to give the factory to a strategic investor. My sister, if you remember, we all heard about this strategic investor. Till date, there's not been any strategic investor. When we inquired from then the Minister of Trade under Alan Chamantin, he made us understand that because of the COVID restrictions, the strategic investor was stuck in India. So if the restrictions were released, the strategic investor was going to come and take over. Till date, whoever was coming didn't come. For us to just hear that they are now going to lease the factory for 15 to 20 years, we think that they should have done the proper thing. And even more so, you see, this thing, like I said, why would the government wait? The factory was built in 2016, May 2016, they did the test run. We were all there. The farmers supplied their sugar cane to the factory. The factory was operationalized. So why would the government then wait for good 8 years down the line when we are close to elections for it to then lease it out to a strategic investor? We think that proper thing was not done. So we want the proper things to be done. And in the first place, if you will look at the way they want to operationalize the factory, it is rather going to create untold hardship in the area. You see, the factory was built to crush sugarcane. You crush sugarcane, you turn it into molasses, you squeeze it, you turn it into brown sugar, then you refine the brown sugar to white sugar. But the government wants to import raw sugar. When we say raw sugar is brown sugar. The government wants to import raw sugar from India and Brazil and then refine it into white sugar. So what is going to happen to the local sugarcane grower farmers here? The people who have been cultivating sugarcane for years, government engaged them in 2022, 2 years ago, and told them to go for loans and expand their sugarcane farms with the hope that the factory will be operationalized for them to sell their sugarcane to the factory. So why would the government turn around and import brown sugar from India and Brazil to refine? Initially, when the minister made the announcement that they were going to import the brown sugar, we thought it was going to take some time. Not knowing they had already imported 1,000 tons of brown sugar into the country, and they are even refining. My sister, they use 1 month to do the refining.
Samuel, tomorrow is when you want to have the protest. You want to go on this demonstration. Have you received clearance from the police, and are they willing to provide you with the security that you need for the protest?
Thank you, my sister. The police, per the Public Order Act, the police do not give clearance. Ours is to notify them at least 5 days before the protest. Yes, we've engaged them. Initially, we made them understand that we were not going to rescind that. They wanted us to postpone it and also change the venue. We told them we were not going to do that. But looking at how things are panning out, we planned it for it to be done tomorrow, which is on the 17th. But because of the nationwide demonstration by the NDC, we've engaged the police and then agreed with them that we are going to postpone it to a later date. But that notwithstanding, we are going to join the protest tomorrow to still drum home our concerns. And after, we are going to come up with a new date, which will be for us to present our petition to the presidency. So yes, we've postponed it to a later date, but we are also going to join the NDC protest tomorrow.
Thank you, Samuel. Thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you, my sister.
Samuel Awuja is the convener for the Concerned Citizens of Commander. Away from that, the Electoral Commission of Ghana headquarters on Monday, September 9, 2024, began receiving nominations for the 2024 presidential election. The 39 aspirants who picked up nomination forms, 24 candidates successfully filed their nominations before Friday, September 13, 2024 deadline. The nominees comprise both political party candidates and independent aspirants, including 3 female candidates. Among the candidates are prominent figures such as independent aspirants Alan Tremantin and Cheddar. Political party representatives include Dr. Mamadou Baumia of the NPP, John Dramani Mahama of the NDC. Other notable candidates are Dr. Alhassan Ayariga of the APC and Reverend Christian Kwabena Andrews of the Ghana Union Movement. The list also features 3 female candidates of the Ghana Freedom Party, Janet Nabila of the People's National Party, and Nana Frimpong Sapon Kuma. This successful filing of nominations marks a crucial step in the lead up to the 2024 elections. The EC has assured the public that it will thoroughly review all candidate nomination forms. Away from these local stories, let's take some business news. President of the Trades Advocacy Group Ghana, Kwadwo Amoateng, has described the governor of the Bank of Ghana as incompetent over the depreciation of the cedi. According to him, the governor, Dr. Ernest Addison, does not engage stakeholders like traders, neither does he supervise the Department of Supervision, which is responsible for supervising the banking and non-banking businesses. Mr. Amoateng also added that the Department of Monitoring and Supervision of the Bank of Ghana has failed woefully effectively in executing their duties. He further projected the cedi to hit 20 cedis to $1 by the end of this year.
This governor is mind-boggling, because if you have a governor that does not even meet its stakeholders, if you have a governor that does not take advice, if you have a governor that in its institution we have a department for supervision and monitoring, and all that they do is go to office, take their first salary, take drinks, go for small meetings, and take their allowances without hitting the ground. Bank of Ghana, the Department of Monitoring and Supervision, they have failed woefully, and it beats our imagination that they take in their position.
Meanwhile, the president of TAG has said that the assertion that moving away from importation is the way forward in stabilizing the cedi is a lazy way of tackling the plummeting of the cedi. He said that the problems facing the trade industry are the taxes and high tariffs that stakeholders are forced to pay. Kojo Martin said that many manufacturing companies in the country import 80% of their raw materials.
Lazy way of addressing this issue. Mention to me one country in this planet that do not do import. Tell me. Tell me one country that do not do import. And even those manufacturers, those factory manufacturers, 80% of their raw materials are being imported. So you see, they should stop this lazy way of tackling this issue that we should move away. It's over dependent. We are importing too much. Come on, $. By just goods that are imported is far cheaper than locally manufactured goods. Why? By now they should be jubilating. It tells you the problem is not what they go around talking about. The main problem is the taxes.
That's all for business. Let's take some sports news. GFA President Kurt Edwin Simeon Okweku has arrived in Nairobi, Kenya, ahead of the executive committee meeting of the Federation African Football (CAF). The Ghana Football Association boss is attending the meeting in his capacity as the president of the sub-regional bloc, the West Africa Football Union (WAFU Zone B), and by invitation of the executive committee. The high-powered meeting, to be chaired by CAF President Dr. Patrice Meshope, will take place in Nairobi, Kenya on Monday, 16th September 2024. After the meeting, Dr. Meshope will brief the media on Monday, 16th September 2024 at a press conference in Nairobi, Kenya. Areas to be covered in the briefing will include the CAF Africa Cup of Nations 2027, Total Energies CAF African Nations Championship, and other upcoming CAF events. Let's take some international stories. Apparent assassination attempt was made on former President Donald Trump on Sunday, September 15, 2024, at his Trump International Golf Club in West Palm Beach, Florida. According to reports, shots were fired in the vicinity of the former president while he was at the club. The suspect, identified as Ryan Wesley Ralph, 58 years, was taken into custody by law enforcement officials. The suspect, Ryan Wesley Ralph, has a history of criminal activity and delusional ideas about supporting Ukraine. The Federal Bureau of Investigations, FBI, is investigating the incident, and law enforcement officials have not yet disclosed a motive for the attempted assassination. The Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office confirmed that shots were fired on the grounds of the golf course while Trump was present. This is the second attempt on the former president in 2 months. On July 13, 2024, an individual later identified as Thomas Matthew Crooks attempted to assassinate Donald Trump at a campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania. Trump survived the incident, and Crooks was fatally shot by a Secret Service agent. These incidents have drawn bipartisan condemnations, with Vice President Kamala Harris urging against further violence. Heavy flooding in Nigeria's Borno state has led to the escape of at least 281 inmates from a prison facility in Maiduguri. The flood, triggered by the overflow of the Alau Dam, breached security barriers and weakened the structure, allowing inmates to flee. According to the Nigerian Correctional Service, the medium security custodial center Maiduguri and staff quarters were severely damaged, enabling the mass escape. As of September 16, 2024, authorities have recaptured 7 of the escaped inmates and their identities, including biometrics, have been made available to the public. Remaining inmates are still at large, and efforts are underway to locate and apprehend them. The severe flooding has had a devastating impact on the region, affecting over 1 million people and causing widespread destruction, including the release of crocodiles and snakes from a nearby zoo. Three American citizens, Benjamin Ruben Zalman Pollin, Marcel Malanga, and Tyler Thompson, along with 34 others, including a Belgian and Canadian national, were sentenced to death for their involvement in a failed coup attempt in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The defendants face charges of terrorism, murder, and criminal association related to the May 2024 coup attempt aimed at overthrowing the Congolese president. The trial began in July 2024 and concluded with 37 individuals receiving death sentences, while 14 others were acquitted. The U.S. State Department acknowledged the verdict, but it is unclear whether the federal government will intervene or declare the 3 Americans wrongfully detained. That's all for international news. Let's take some entertainment news. The Appeals Board of the University of Ghana Students Representative Council UGSRC has reinstated Maradona Ejeyeboa, known as Guru, and Emmanuel Owusu-Amponsah to the SRC presidential election after a successful appeal against their disqualification for non-residential status. Guru and the running mates for Emmanuel Owusu-Amponsah, Lawrence Egle Edinam, were initially disqualified from the race by the UGSRC Electoral Commission, citing their non-residential status. However, Guru filed a petition against the decision, and the Appeals Board reviewed the case. The Appeals Board deemed the disqualification a misjudgment and reinstated Guru and Lawrence in the election. The board has directed the Electoral Commission to include both candidates and their running mates in the upcoming election list. This pivotal decision reintroduces both aspirants into the race, intensifying the competition for the SRC presidency. Students are set to vote on these candidates soon, following a scheduled balloting session. That is all for our news this afternoon. But before we go, a recap of our top stories. Vice presidential candidate of the New Patriotic Party, Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh, has challenged political parties to show their dedication to combating Galamsey by signing a binding National Anti-Galamsey Pact. Senior Staff Association of Universities of Ghana has commenced a nationwide strike today over the government's failure to address their demands for improved working conditions amidst concerns that labor unions are holding government to ransom because it is an election year. In business, a group called Trades Advocacy Group Ghana has described the governor of the Bank of Ghana as incompetent over the depreciation of the cedi. Many thanks for joining us this afternoon. For more news, visit us on www.abcnewsgh.com. Interact with us on social media at abcnewsgh_. I am Abuna Mante. Have a good afternoon.